Okay, guys. So in order to create the type of background that we made that was made for the original game, it's actually broken up into three pieces. And the three pieces are foreground, middle, and back. Think of it being as three different sheets of paper, one on top of the other, and when you move them side by side, it kind of creates an animation of kind of something moving for the background, and that's kind of what we want to go ahead and do. So the first part we want to do is a very back. So let's try to picture what kind of scene you're doing. So let's say for this Starry Sky, I'm gonna make my game a little bit like a regular neighborhood that is in the suburbs. So I'll see a lot of trees, houses, probably fences and dogs. So try to think about where you're setting your place. Is it in the desert? Is it in the wilderness? Is it in a city like the original game? So once you kind of pick that out, try to think what will be all the way in the back. So let's say if I'm looking at this scene right now, all the way in the back, well, I'm going to have trees. So I'm going to go ahead and make that as my first thing. So I'm going to hover over, choose a sprite, click on the paint tool, and we're going to go ahead and rename this back. Now, for the trees, you guys have two different ways of doing this. You can either use one color and make it from dark to light or from light to dark when you're making the three other ones later on, the foreground, middle, and back. Or you could just go ahead and create the actual artwork for it and then you can change it later. I'll suggest making the artwork for it and changing it later just to see what you'll need to change. That makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and just make my trees. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but I'm just going to make silhouettes, which just means I'm not giving a lot of details. All I'm doing is giving the regular shape that it will have. So for this time around, I'm actually going to use the circle tool, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get a nice brown that I want to go ahead and use for it. So I'm going to move it right about here, and I'm going to change this a little bit more. Once I'm happy with the color that I have for the brown, I'm going to go ahead and make my oval shape. Once I have that, I'm going to take my reshape tool and I'm going to add two corner dots to each of them to make it a little bit more like a rectangle. And once I'm happy with it, if I want to, I can kind of move kind of the sides a little bit closer together if I kind of wanted to. Once I'm happy with this, the next thing I want to go ahead and make my tree. So for this one, I'm going to use my circle tool. I'm going to use green. I'm going to make a big bubble. And I'm going to use a different shade for the next circle. So something like that. And maybe I'll use another shade too. Maybe a little bit of a darker one. And I'm going to put this over here. And I'll even move this one to the back. Okay, so I'm happy with how my tree looks. I'm going to go ahead and select everything. And I'm just going to go ahead and make it just a little bit longer. And I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. So once I'm happy with the size, I'm just going to go ahead and make different ones that I'm going to place. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over. I'm going to maybe add one a little bit more underneath. And I'm also going to shrink the size of this one a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste one more time. Again, you can have as many as you want. If you notice on the background on the back sprite for the ninja, there's actually a couple of towers, so it's kind of up to you how many you would want. Okay. I wouldn't worry about the bottom because again, this is going to be covered by other things later on. So once you're done creating what you'll want in the back, maybe if I wanted to, I can add a fence as well. That's kind of up to me if I want to. I don't have to. But once that is set, I can go ahead and start working on the code. Another thing you guys might want to do is maybe to change it up. I can also select everything here and I can maybe flip it horizontally. just so that it has a little bit of a different look. I can maybe add some flowers to one of them just to break it up a little bit more if I want to. That's optional. But once you're done, you can go ahead and start coding.